So on my channel, we've seen prefab houses, we've seen shipping containers, we've even seen a dome house. But today we're gonna look at what started the whole alternative living movement to begin with, a tiny house. This is Jesse, the owner of a new alternative lodging resort that he just created in Ocean Shores, Washington. He bought this piece of land right by the ocean for $500,000 and plans to fill it with tiny houses, glamp sites, and renovated RVs. So I took a little trip over there to see what this new sort of alternative resort was all about. My dad actually joined me on this little adventure. He's currently renovating an Airstream with my sister Monica on her channel, so he was down to check this out too. So we have a 2-hour drive ahead. I'm excited to see this tiny house. I actually can't believe I've never been in a tiny house because I've been in a shipping container, a dome house, Airstreams. A tiny house I feel like is the original thing behind this movement. So we're gonna check it out. First, let's take a tour of this tiny house. Then we can talk about the cost to build, how much it rents per night, and what the other rentals on this property are like the glamping site that I stayed in. So this is Jesse. He built this tiny house. You built it yourself, right?
Yeah, I mean, I had a couple carpenters that are a lot handier than me. But yeah, 2018, a couple months we put it together starting in May and ended up by the end of the summer.
So this is a pretty big tiny home. It's 28 feet long, it has vaulted ceilings, and it has 2 different lofted sleeping areas. It really has a full kitchen and a full bathroom, almost a full bathroom. It doesn't have a bathtub, but basically everything you need. Okay, so walking in, you have the main living area. They were able to fit a small couch and a small separate little dining area. So over here, there's just a little desk and a dining area. It's actually pretty big here. If they wanted, they could probably add another sort of sleeping area here. It does make more sense for this to be the dining area because there's a door that goes outside, so you could just open this up and have that indoor-outdoor living. This is the first tiny home I've actually ever been in, so I don't have anything to compare it to, but I do love how they did this vaulted ceiling. It makes it feel a lot bigger, and it also looks really nice too. It actually does feel pretty big. It feels similar to the shipping container in width, but probably a little bit wider actually. Tons of windows, super bright in here. It also has recessed lighting, so if it does get dark, you can just turn the lights on. So up the stairs is the first sleeping area. This is like the master bedroom of the tiny house. So up here, they're able to fit a queen size bed. This could probably even fit a king size. You can see there's a little bit of space on the sides, and then there's a little extra space for your stuff. It's got a good amount of room to the ceiling. You really don't feel claustrophobic in here. When you look at it from the outside, this tiny house definitely looks vaulted. Like they went for extra room. There is plenty of windows up here on all 3 sides, so it feels bright. That always makes it feel a little bit bigger. There's even a TV, some built-in storage, and I guess this would be a walking area, but you can't really stand up. I would imagine you could put your suitcase here so it's not downstairs in that main area. I think it's really great they have that because otherwise that downstairs area would just be suitcases. Unless of course you lived in it, which you fully could live in this thing, definitely. So heading back down the stairs, let's take a look at the kitchen. So like I said, it's a full kitchen. This is probably about the size of the kitchen at the townhouse I live in. So yeah, it's got plenty of counter space. It has a dishwasher, which you don't often find with alternative living. It even has a full-size fridge, which I was pretty impressed with. Like you could fit an entire family's worth of stuff in here. So I was not expecting to see a full fridge in here. It's also got a pretty good sized gas stove top and oven, and of course a microwave, so really everything you need for a full kitchen. You'll also notice that there's a 2-in-1 washer and dryer, which now that I'm editing this reminds me I need to go switch my laundry. Be right back. But yeah, that's just another thing I was not expecting. It makes me feel like, dang, you could really live in this thing full time if you wanted.
The thing I found out was finding an 18-inch dishwasher, double the price.
Really?
It's more difficult.
A smaller dishwasher.
Yeah, so watch out if you're looking for 18-inch dishwashers. They're like, you know, twice what you'd pay for a normal.
And sure, it's smaller, but you wouldn't actually be missing any necessities. Another cool thing is how they use the stairs as built-in storage. Since it's small, they do not waste space in this thing, and I think that's pretty cool. Over here we have the bathroom. It's a 3/4 bathroom, so it has everything except a bathtub. which is not shocking. It feels kind of like a guest bathroom in a normal house, but with a shower. So it doesn't have a ton of storage, but it's got a little bit with this cabinet system. It is a good sized shower, and then it also has this pocket door here to separate it from the kitchen area. I really love how bright this bathroom is. I love that they added a window and kept the walls white because it does make it feel a little bigger. It doesn't feel like a tiny bathroom by any means. It just feels like a small bathroom in a regular sized house. Okay, so heading back into the main living area and up this ladder, this was kind of my favorite part. I just thought this was a really cool little loft, mainly because it has its own little balcony. How cool is that? So you can actually fit a couple of chairs out here. So up here is the second loft sleeping area. This one would really only fit more of a twin size bed, probably a little bigger than a twin, but not quite a full. Let's see. Yeah, it's definitely pretty long vertically. It's pretty tall up here. I couldn't stand up, but I don't feel at all claustrophobic. Nothing like when I was in the pod hotels or sleeping in my car. This is a big upgrade from that. And the really cool thing about this spot is you have access to your very own balcony. So you do have to crawl through this, but it has room for a couple chairs up here, so it's a pretty cool spot. I love that they added this. I think it looks so cool. If I had my own tiny house, I would definitely add that. So here's a better look at that smaller sleeping area. You can see they have this sort of foldable mattress, so you could use this as storage if you want. This one has a ladder to save room, and there's an extra handle so it's easy to get up. So for the most part, that is the inside of the tiny house tour. Now let's talk about the cost to build it and take a look at the rest of this property. So a lot of people build tiny houses intending to live on it. What was your intention building this one?
Yeah, that's another great question. I wanted to do some personal camping in it, but the intention was to create this as a model home, and we were able to rent it out for a couple years on Airbnb. So we're getting some exposure. We parked it on a bluff in South Seattle with a great view of the skyline. So the intention was, I guess, rental income to see if we could pull it off, and then eventually, you know, finding some connections who also wanted us to build them for them.
So while right now they only have one tiny house, they do plan on putting more in each of these spots, making it a whole little tiny house resort. Jesse said the cost to build it themselves was about $50,000. If you were to have someone build it for you, assemble it and everything, it'd be a little under $100,000.
We were over budget, but our target was about $40,000 initially. But I'd say, you know, our cost is probably in the 50 range. You know, with these upgrades like the fireplace, the sky deck, and the kitchen appliances, you know, each one incrementally increases our costs. Where we could do it cheaper, but we want those features.
How did you find it did on Airbnb in Seattle?
Did it for about a year. Tried to market it a few different ways, but it kind of depended on the clientele too.
What I thought was interesting is how the tiny house performed on Airbnb in Seattle versus a more rural area like Ocean Shores. A piece of land in Seattle is gonna be triple at least the cost of Ocean Shores. So you would think it would command a much higher rate on Airbnb, right? Well, not exactly. So how much did you guys put this on Airbnb for in Seattle?
Yeah, that's a good point. In Seattle, we were doing like
Seattle versus here.
Yeah, it was like $150, you know, or $99 even on regular weekdays. But $150 or so, you know, $99 on the low end, maybe $199 on the high end. People really weren't that interested in the fall and winter.
Yeah.
So during the summer months, it's kind of like just any other 2-bedroom apartment. That's how we treated it. So maybe a couple thousand, maybe $2,000 to $4,000. But out here, it really just depends on the demand. But this seems pretty highly sought after. So we're getting higher rates than we were in Seattle.
Out here on the coast, they're actually able to charge about $260 on weekends and $225 on weekdays. So out here, cheaper land, but you get more on Airbnb.
The whole hospitality scene has been turned upside down.
The same is true for these glamping sites on the property. They're relatively inexpensive to build, but they can actually charge a good amount on Airbnb. How long does it take to put together one of the glamp sites?
We're talking about 1 to 2 weeks.
That's like nothing.
It's crazy.
That's pretty amazing.
Those tents are just like such a good investment. Like, you get them in mass, they're like $2,500 to $3,500 a tent, and then maybe you put in another $5,000 in your deck labor and materials, and then $1,000 in furnishings, and you've got another income property for $10,000.
And how much can you rent those out for?
Well, again, it depends. You know, I like to just treat it as about $100 more than a campsite.
So typically these rent for $150 a night, but they can rent for even more on busy weekends.
On peak weekends, people will pay, you know, whatever if it's the last one left.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting that these days alternative lodging is kind of more sought after than hotels for these nature-filled sorts of areas. And I found that in staying in them, it really is an experience and a destination in itself. Hope you guys enjoyed this tour. I'll have links to everything down below, and I'll see you in my next video.